Good morning. Today, I wanted to do a video on lathering. I haven't been in the shower yet. I'm, as you can tell, fresh out of bed with bedhead. But I talked to the community, and a lot of people had questions on lathering and how to do the thing. Full disclaimer: I'm no expert. I do what I do, and I'll share it with you. So we're going to go over a few different lathering techniques today. The first one is going to be stick lathering. So for stick lathering, it's for using a shave stick. So what you do with that is, first thing, you want a wet face, and you want, if you have stubble, you're going to use that as the brush to build your lather, to take the soap off, so you can build your lather on your face. So wet your face. And then take the shave stick itself and dip it in the water. And then you write this, just draw it on your face like a crayon. Back and forth. Against the grain, with the grain, across the grain. And it'll see it start to deposit little bits of soap into your stubble. I don't know if that shows up on the camera, but it'll all make sense in a second. So these Arco shave sticks, if you buy it in bulk, it's a really, really cheap shave. So for that, I'm going to go with I'll talk about brushes real quick before I get them all wet. So I got up the three heavy hitters here. We have a synthetic brush, a badger brush, and this is a boar bristle brush. So a synthetic brush is, nowadays they're really nice. They're really soft. They're real easy to use. I'd recommend one. But if you're a traditionalist and you have to go with something else and you're stuck to say, do I want badger, do I want boar? Just know that the badger brush is incredibly soft compared to the boar brush. Look at that. The backbone test. The badger brush is completely flayed and the boar brush is barely moving. So it's a lot softer than the boar brush. But I'm going to get these two brushes soaking in water, because you have to soak hair brushes so they work better. So I'm gonna got a cup on the side. I'm gonna soak them in water, get them soaking, ready to go. And while we're waiting on that, the synthetic brush, there is no need to soak. You simply dip it in the water. It's drippy. Wring it out a little bit, and then just go right on that soap you put on your face. You want to agitate it back and forth. The brush strokes are going to spread it out, but the agitating it's going to get it fluffed up. Now, there's a lot of different takes on the internet about this, but a lot of people say, oh, you want that giant Santa Claus beard. You want that big puffy cloud on your face. To me, there's too much air in that lather. You want more liquid, more water. So the way to add water to your lather is you take the tips of your brushes. When I say the tips, I mean like the first quarter inch of your brush. You dip it in the water, and then you run it across your face. You'll feel the water soak right through into your lather to your face, and then you work it in a little bit. So you don't need the runniest lather. You don't want something dripping off your face. But on the same token, You don't want to dry lather because it'll literally dry on your face. It'll start to flake off. You want to find that happy medium, and to each their own. You know, if you like a really wet lather, and some people do, I do. I like a wetter lather than what I see on YouTube. I think it provides more protection because the more water you have on your face, the better the glide. So, I don't know. I might rough this up a little bit more. You know, add a little more water to it for my ideal lather. I like that nice shiny lather. You know, it's shiny because it's holding onto a lot of water. See, it's starting to drip. That's what I like, where it's starting to drip, not quite there. So to me, this is primo. I could shave with this right now. For you guys, I'm gonna wipe it off, and I'll show you another technique. Alright, I've gotten the shave stick, all the soap and lather, rinsed and washed off my face. And we're gonna go into the next technique here, the next type of lathering, and that's gonna be lathering off of a puck. So this is, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Vanderhagen, they make a kit with a bowl, shave soap, and it comes with a brush. But you throw the puck in there, you throw this in the microwave, and you let it go for like 30 seconds, and that puck melts instantly. And I think that's a glycerin-based soap, so it'll melt in the microwave, which this melts to the bottom of the bowl. I'm gonna put a skim coat of water over the bottom of that. Eighth inch of water, maybe a 1/4 inch. And I'm gonna let that soak for a minute. And I'll talk about the brushes. So for this lather, I'm gonna do I'm gonna grab my boar brush. And when I say you want to wring it out, I mean you don't want much water in there at all. You know, give it a shake, wring it out. You're gonna look at that and say, how's that gonna make a lather? It will. It doesn't require much water. A lot of people put too much water in and nothing whips up right for them. So that's been what, 20 seconds or so. There's water on top of that, just a little bit floating around. I'm gonna dump that off, and I'm gonna go right into it with my brush. So I could say honestly that my brush is probably officially loaded right now. It's got enough soap on it to do the thing. So I'm going to bring this loaded brush over to my face, and I'm going to spread that out. Just like that. And obviously this is a little too thick, but we go back to dipping the tip of the brush in the water and adding water to our face, and then agitate. So, as you can see, that it doesn't, you don't have to put too much soap on the brush to get to that point. And then just add water until you're at a comfortable place to shave, which for some people could be barely any water. I like more than not. Like I showed with the Arco, I like it just about dripping off my face, because it will dry or start to dry as you're as you're going. So another thing with synthetic brushes, and I just noticed this, I just lost a bristle. Not synthetic, animal hair brushes. They shed sometimes. They're not. It's it's hair. It can break, it can shed. It gets split ends. You actually want it to get split ends because you brush will hold a lot more soap if it does. But all right, we're at that point where it's just about dripping, and this is what I like. So I would shave off of the puck method. I would shave off of this right now. Alright, I'm going to rinse this off and I'll show you another method. Alright, so the next method, I'm going to show you how to bowl lather. It's a little bit different than doing it off the puck. Bowl lathering, so say you give you for instance here, you weren't sure what soap you wanted to buy, so you went and bought a sample pack. And that's another neat little trick. A lot of companies actually do offer this. You might have to dig through the websites on it, but they offer sample packs because you'd rather spend $20 on 10 samples, and you can get 5 shades out of each one of these samples. So you're still saving money. It's not very expensive to do this. But the sample packs are nice because you can go in and you can take I use a baby spoon. Take a baby spoon and you scoop out a piece about the size of an almond. That's the analogy that's made most sense to me. The size of an almond. Everyone knows how big an almond is. And if you don't, Google it. Then you take your soap and you put it in your bowl. And what I do is I take it and I smear it around in there. So it'll look something like that. It'll just be smeared in the bottom of the bowl. And for this, so I've done a synthetic brush and I've done a boar brush. I'm going to go with a badger brush. I've been soaking this. Another thing is, back to the too wet factor, wring it out. It's not going to look like it's going to make any lather. But get right to it. So what you can do with bowl lathering is you can completely make your lather inside your bowl. So you can you notice the texture and the consistency, and you say, hey, it's a little dry. Same thing, tips in the water, get back to it, and you can look at that and go, hey, it's still a little dry, not quite drippy yet, not to where I like it. I like doing this on my face because that's more time for the lather that's on your face, and the longer the lather's on your face, the better your shade's going to be, in my opinion. So one thing I'll talk about while whipping this up is the term, you probably see it online, or just write it in forums, the YMMV, your mileage may vary. And what's that mean? So your mileage may vary means kind of what it says is this might work for you, it might not work for you. It might work great for you. Your mileage may be way different. It may not work, because doing this, a lot of people love doing this and whipping up a lather. And by the way, this is at its primo point, and this is a sample from Razor Emporium, just so I get that out there. But there's your Santa Claus beard, just about. You could probably keep going a little longer, but I'm not gonna. But some people get to the point where they just want to paint this on and shave it off, and that's what this would be. I'm not gonna do it, but that's what this would be. You get your nice fluffy lather whipped up, paint it on. Grab a little more of that lather that's in the bowl that's just sitting there. Paint it on. Another thing you can do when you completely make your lather, so either you're done making the lather on your face or you've made it completely in a bowl, take your fingers and squeegee that up. See all that lather? And you can take it and you can paint it right on. And there, you could shave off of that. But I got another technique to show. So those are all shaving soaps. And then there's the world of shaving cream. So shaving cream, for this demonstration, I'm going to use Taylor of Old Bond Street coconut shaving cream. So Taylor of Old Bond Street, they're great. I love their smells. They're very, they don't try to overcomplicate things. It'll be, you know, they got a very good grapefruit, a very good sandalwood. You know, their cedarwood's okay. Their coconut's outstanding. They got a sweet tobacco leaf that's great. They don't try to, you know, add 15 smells, you know, so it's not too complicated. It's just coconut. And I like that. So for cream, what you can do is you can take it right on your finger and apply it right to your face. Rub it in a little bit. And then I'll grab a synthetic brush for this. When we put this away, I don't want to get it wet. Grab a synthetic brush for this. I'll dip it in water so it's dripping wet. I'll wring it out. Like I said, back to the barely any water thing. And just go right to agitating it. And this stuff puffs up to a really good lather. Obviously that's super thick, needs a lot of water. So I'll dip the tips and I'll brush more water in. And you can see it just wake up immediately. A little more water in there. And then agitate it up. Dip the tip some more. Get it so it's just about dripping off the way I like it. And there, you can shave off of that. And the same thing applies because I built that lather on my face. You can take it, scoop it, and you can add it if you want that Santa Claus beard. To me, it's unnecessary. You don't need all that, but if that's what people want to do, go for it. So that's a that's a lathering video. I hope it helps. One thing I could add to the discussion on soaps and creams, I think creams, they're a lot easier to start with. You could build a lather a lot more quickly. and it's easier to control the lather on your face than a soap in some cases. That's my opinion. If you're, one thing that a cream doesn't have on a soap is a soap is more slick. So when you're using a shave soap, you get a lot better glide. If you use a nice pre-shave prior to applying a cream, that helps. But some people just prefer creams. Back to the whole, your mileage may vary. I prefer soaps, just because they're more slick. But if I do a nice pre-shave prior to lathering up a soap or a cream, it takes that variable out. And another thing I didn't add, and I didn't bring a pre-shave down to do this, but if you use a pre-shave soap, it builds a really slick layer in your face, and it'll help build that lather a little quicker. So I hope that helps, and have a great day.